Hey everyone, hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak and whichever platform you're choosing to play it on. And today, basically, I wanted to discuss the second event quest that we ended up getting this week, because it feels like this might be the toughest encounter yet. And that's actually saying a lot, because I feel like in the past few weeks, while I'm usually critical of event quests, and you guys know my history on that, I think they have been doing a fantastic job providing us with some really good content. But for those who still don't necessarily know how to get their hands on event quests or downloadable item packs or anything along those lines, all you have to do is speak to the courier cat either in Elgato or back at the Steelworks. Go down to the add-ons options and claim anything that's labeled in white, whether it is event quests, downloadable item packs, or anything along those lines. One of those item packs or event quests that you're going to be able to get is a dual threat slaying quest called Banquet of Beauty. This one is going to be putting you up against a Volcana and a Primordial Malzeno in the Citadel. Now, this is a quest that we did specifically know about due to the leaks. I went over that maybe about a month and a half ago by now. It feels so long ago since basically we ended up getting the last batch of leaks, and we won't be getting any more going forward since, of course, the content drop are basically gonna dry up in about 3 weeks worth, or maybe 2 weeks worth by the time that this video goes live. So essentially, we did know about this quest coming. Remember that Volcana is presumably based on lore, one of those monsters that is kind of like continually fighting against Primordial Malzeno, but for whatever reason in this quest they are kind of like fighting alongside one another. And now, as far as the quest is concerned, at face value, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's much of a difficult quest. Originally, it wasn't listed so for them to have like higher resistances, higher damage, higher health, and at face value it doesn't necessarily look that way, but they are tweaked just a little bit. These are not hazard versions of these monsters. Remember that both of them have already received hazard versions of themselves. Primordial Malzeno originally received one pretty much as you took it down the very first time. You fought normal Primordial Malzeno to finish up the story, and then you did get access to the very first hazard quest for this specific bonus update, and then Volcana ended up receiving her hazard quest pretty much soon after that, I believe a couple of weeks ago by now. But that's not really what we're looking at here. However, they do have boosted parameters when it comes to resistances and specifically when it comes to health. Damage wise, they seem to be doing just about what you would have expected. Primordial Malzeno does seem to be doing maybe a 0.5 up or something like that, but not really all that much. Resistances though is where things are going to get really interesting, specifically when it comes to Primordial Malzeno. One of the things you're going to notice is that if you try to actually use, and this is something that I picked up on my gameplay, if you're trying to use the spider to pretty much pull it against the wall and bang it against the wall, depending on the status that it's on, if it's in rage, you're not going to be able to pull it into the wall no matter what you do. You see me in the gameplay try to spam it over and over, and it just never actually works. It don't actually waste your spider. It doesn't go away by any chance. Usually many times you throw a spider, for whatever reason it clicks, you try to pull it into the wall and it doesn't work, and then you just instantly lose your spider. This time they just simply lock you out from being able to bang it against the wall. Normally you would be able to do that. This time around, whenever it's in an enrage mode, which remember, Primordial Malzeno does have two separate enrage types, the normal and then the orange glowing one, then you cannot necessarily bang it against the wall during those instances. Volcana you can, but Primordial Malzeno you cannot. Another thing you're going to notice is, like I mentioned before, they're going to have slightly higher health, and this is probably going to be one of those quests that you're going to notice that you're taking a lot of time to take down these monsters. I did this quest 3 separate occasions, and each one of the times, regardless of the team that I did it with, we had 2 people die just randomly for whatever reason, and we ended up taking almost 20 minutes to be able to take down both of these monsters, and that is because they do have higher health, not necessarily because they're tougher or anything like that. Again, maybe higher resistances to some degree. That means less poison, less para, or whatever the case is. Although you can still use one of those frogs that you can use blast on, so you can certainly topple one of them over if you use one of those frogs, or maybe both. Certainly you can also have other monsters come into the fight and mount and be able to get that double KO, mount an extra bonus damage that way. but the resistances are certainly a little bit higher, but the health is a whole heck of a lot higher. Now, damage wise is one of the things that I don't necessarily should be too concerned with, or you shouldn't be too concerned with. Volcana, it will just do normal damage. Primordial Malzeno does seem to have a little bit of an uptick. In that same vein though, one of the things that you'll notice is that because a lot of people haven't necessarily fought this monster all that much, or maybe they just did the story version but they never did the hazard version of itself, you will notice that a lot of people will end up dying specifically to the big chaos type of attacks. Whenever it's enraged in the second form and it goes up in the air and it does a big explosion, you'll notice it do that. Whenever it does the double beam attack, or it sends the spiral kind of like bubbles into the ground, or like spiraling fire outward in 3 or 4 separate directions, you'll notice people end up calling to that thing. It really depends on the health that you might end up having. A lot of people won't die to that, but a lot of people will, because they're not expecting that to kill you. It doesn't look all that menacing, but at the end of the day, it can one-hit KO you. So a lot of people will end up dying to that thing in that regard. So ultimately, this quest for me specifically, I thought it was one of the most enticing quests that we have gotten. Not necessarily because it is probably the most difficult quest, but it is one of the toughest encounters. You're fighting 2 elder dragons. Both of them are kind of like moving around the map at their own will. It would have been amazing if you did end up getting this quest. I think what would have made it probably perfect is if you did end up getting both of them, they would have been fighting in the arena together. That would have been a whole heck of a lot more fun, because especially at the same time, not a timer like you fight Volcana first and then Primordial comes in. That's like, no, they both fight in the arena together. I think that would have probably made this quest the best version of itself. But what we are ended up seeing here, and I do think, and I have to applaud Capcom, and this is what I said in one of my previous videos a couple of days ago when I spoke about the previous event quest, is that they are doing a bang up job with the last batch of quests. Now, sadly, once again, we're only a couple of more weeks away from pretty much being done with DLC and event quests for this game. So maybe they held out too long to actually give us the good stuff. A lot of people were hoping for, you know, better rewards, or whatever the case is. And while there is a reward specifically for this quest, you know, is not necessarily all that enticing. If you make your way down to the steelworks and speak to the smithy, you check down the layer option and tab to the right, you're gonna notice that you're able to make the blood earring. This is a Malzeno looking kind of trinket for your head. You will need a blood ticket, which you do obtain by finishing the quest, and a Volcana heart claw. So you know, you do need that and a couple of Malzeno parts. I believe 6 points worth of Malzeno parts. I believe the purple plate should be more than enough to be able to get that done. 2 of them should be able to get it, and you essentially have a little bit of earpiece kind of thing for your character, which looks all right, but you know, there's a pretty good chance, I should say, that if your character is wearing it, no one's really going to notice, because it just kind of blends in with your hair. So, you know, it's not really going to stand out all that much. You know, we do have a couple of like layered armor options set to drop within the next few weeks, presumably next week. But, you know, when it comes to like actual drops for this bonus update, they have been relatively tame. They have not been necessarily all that good or great, but it is what it is. You know, these are the past few, you know, content drops that we are expecting for the game. And, you know, for what is worth, I think they have been doing a bang up job, at the very least for the quest, which is, again, something that I've been very critical of in the past. And now I think they're doing a much better job. One of the things that I do want to quickly address is the fact that I did put out a video a couple of days ago, and this is not necessarily related to this video anymore, but I do want to quickly address a couple of the questions that I were asked. And if you guys did watch that video and you're still watching now, first and foremost, thank you. But more importantly, I do want to answer a couple of questions regarding my most recent Monster Hunter 6 Capcom teases news for Monster Hunter Generation 6 video, where a lot of people were asking me pretty much like what were their sources from those information. And that actually came from the fiscal report that Capcom put out. They put, again, link was in the description below. When I say that, I'm not just like filling air or whatever, or just saying that to just say it. When I say link in the description below, I actually mean check out the video description. There is a link available there. And a couple of people were asking me where was I getting that information from? Was I pulling that out of my butt or whatever? Like making it up at the end of the day. I am the source or whatever that meme is, and that is not the case. There is a specific Capcom fiscal report that just came out the past week. I believe it was by the time this video goes live, it might have been about 10 days or so ago, but it's from late July, the fiscal report, and they were essentially giving out a couple of investor answers in that. I do have a video that I'm going to be talking about Mega Man 12, which they also spoke in that same interview as well, where they were teasing Mega Man 12 there as well. So a little bit of a tease for one of my upcoming videos. But yeah, there is a source. It's linked in the video description. This is a Capcom original article from their very own investors meeting, and it's a fully translated officially by them. So it's not even like I made a mistake and I thought I read something, but it wasn't like that. Not at all. This is official Capcom business. So, you know, that is the official source. That's why I said I found it extremely interesting that they were talking about, you know, once again, September as the place to keep your eyes peeled for more Monster Hunter news, instead of them just saying vaguely, you know, stay tuned. We'll keep you, you know, updated when something is, you know, gonna happen or some news are gonna happen. You know, fans stay tuned for the rest of the year or whatever. Something vague like that, which is usually what they have done. This time they were very specific about like keep your eyes peeled for September because more stuff is coming, which is we pretty much already know, but of course we're supposed to pretend that we don't. But that's about all the information that I have for you guys today. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.